In 2014, our goal was to educate and inspire the next generation of young Black leaders. So we set out to find the nation's best of the best to reveal the secrets to success. Our belief is that we should teach the young early the things that we learn late. Our lives are shifting the culture. Our lives are changing the narrative. This is the ShineHard Conversation. Welcome back to another episode of the ShineHard Conversation. I'm your host, Johnny Bailey, and this week I'm in Manhattan, New York with entertainment publicist, Imani Ellis.
Hi.
Hey. Imani is phenomenal. She has worked for Nickelodeon, she's done time at ESPN. Currently, she's the communications manager at NBCUniversal. And when she's not there, she's also the founder of a super dope influencer movement called the Creative Collective NYC. So today she's gonna tell us what that movement is all about, what she's learned from the entertainment industry, and of course, sprinkle on a few gems of her personal success.
Yes, for sure.
So I'm ready, you're ready. Imani, it's time to shine.
Let's go.
So as we step into our purpose and really begin living our best life, I think it's still important that we remember who we are and where we came from. So can you talk a little bit about your childhood and what growing up was like for you?
For sure. So both of my parents are pastors.
Wow.
So PK squared. And I think I tell people that and they're like, oh my God, your growing up must have been crazy and
Right.
strict. But it was actually the opposite. My parents really raised us on the foundations of like love and respect. And that being the foundation, that was my accountability to them. And so it wasn't like you couldn't be home, past 8.
Yeah.
I actually got a car when I was 16, but I had this accountability to them that I didn't want to disappoint them. And one day I hope to raise my kids the same way, but it was wonderful. We moved around a lot because my dad's more missionary based, so traveled a lot, very, very kind of from city to city, city to city.
Right.
And
You have
I'm
siblings?
I have 3 siblings.
Okay.
So I have 2 sisters. One is a farmer. One is in vet school.
Oh, wow.
And then I have a little brother, Emmanuel, who's 16. He's the best.
Wow. So I think we all had something that we wanted to be when we grew up. We all had like a dream. I think I wanted to be like a street sweeper guy or something. I don't know why. I was like 5. Like it was the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
But what did you want to be when you grew up?
You know what's crazy? And I didn't want to be anything like when I grew up.
Yeah.
Like whatever I wanted to do, I just did it. So when I was younger, I wanted to be a ballerina.
Right.
So I did ballet for 14 years. And second to my parents, I think that's a lot of where like my structure comes from.
Discipline.
Discipline.
Yeah.
We would do like 6-hour days. My toes would be like falling off, but like I did it for 14 years. And then I quit that and I was like, I'm gonna run track.
Yeah.
And I ran track, but it wasn't until I think maybe college that I was like, I want to work in entertainment, and then I ran towards that. But as a kid, I wasn't like, I want to be an astronaut. I don't know if that's weird. I don't know. I just never, whatever I wanted to do, I was like, Mom, I'm going to be a ballerina, and then I just went and did it.
And they were supportive, like, all right, go ahead and do it.
They really were. They really were. My mom would come right after school, pick me up in the big blue Suburban, and me and my sisters and my brother would go drive an hour to Atlanta Ballet.
Wow.
And they would just sit in the parking lot doing their homework, and I was upstairs dancing for like 6 hours.
Wow, that's
so,
love.
A lot of dedication.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So let's talk about your career and how you got started in entertainment.
Yeah, so like I mentioned, in college, I was like, oh, I need a job.
Where'd you go to school?
I went to Vanderbilt in Nashville.
Okay.
Go Doors. I don't know if anyone, go Doors.
SEC, okay.
SEC. I ran track there, so I did hurdles.
Nice.
But my
track
freshman
love.
year, track love, my freshman year, I tore my Achilles tendon.
Yikes.
It ripped up the back of my leg, and I was like, ooh, I'm not gonna be a track star. But I loved entertainment. Like, I've always loved entertainment. And so I did my first internship at Nickelodeon.
Yeah.
And I kind of worked backwards because I saw all the other interns had like already 3 internships and I had 1.
Wow.
And I had this fear of graduating college and having to like go back home, and I just couldn't.
That's every like college kid's fear. Like, I don't want to go back home.
I couldn't. I was like, I can't do this. So it put this fire in me, this kind of like bear that was always chasing me, that I couldn't go back home. I could go back home with a job, but I couldn't go back home and be like, can I live here?
Right.
So
Being from Atlanta,
Yeah.
going home wouldn't be the worst thing, because you can find a good job in Atlanta, right?
Yeah, I think it was more of a mental, like, I want to be an adult. It goes back to my parents and that accountability.
Yeah.
I really wanted to live this life.
Liberation.
Yeah, and live this life that they had prepared for me. So then after Nickelodeon, came back to Vanderbilt and was like, I'm going to work in PR. And there was no PR club, so I started one.
Really?
It's still there today.
Wow.
It's the Vanderbilt Public Relations Society. And I think, I just started, I was so hungry. I would do only one of my internships, I think I had 7, only one was paid. I didn't care.
Yeah.
And once you got your first big internship, you got another and you got another. So it was a great run.
So those are like the first steps, is just getting that internship and then kind of using it to leverage into the next one.
Yeah, and I think working backwards, understanding that you can change your mind, but if you want to be a publicist, not just saying that, but saying, okay, what do publicists do? They write.
Yeah.
I should probably write for the school newspaper.
Yeah.
I meet a lot of people sometimes who are like, I want to be on-air talent. And I'm like, okay. And they haven't done a single thing. And I kind of have to just give them that tough, but Southern love. You gotta do something.
Right.
I think that's the first step.
And that's the beauty of technology today. And you can create something. You can go on YouTube. You can build a brand and really start building a body of work for yourself before you get to your pinnacle job.
Totally.
Yeah.
You can really create your own opportunities.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So kind of fast forward to where you're at now.
Yeah.
You're doing some amazing things at NBCUniversal. Talk about what it means to be a communications manager and what a day-to-day is like for you.
For sure. So, we are responsible for strategic planning of everything that you see that touches our talent. So, from the headshot that you see to the clips that you see when they go on the Wendy Williams show, to their bio, to anything that surrounds their image, I touch it. And I approve it and I crank it out to the public.
Got
and
you.
so with that comes planning press days and interviews. Yeah. But it also comes to not so sexy days, like fielding calls from TMZ and, talking to your talent when they do really dumb things.
What does TMZ want?
Everything. They want all the exclusives. They want you to confirm everything. But surprisingly, we have a really great relationship with the press because they understand, we're doing a job, they're doing a job. And sometimes in my job, I don't have the information yet. And so it's me being honest with them and saying, I don't have this, but when I do, I'll let you know.
Right.
It's all relationship based, really.
Gotcha. So when you're not at NBCUniversal, I know you're doing your shifting culture out here in NYC with the Creative Collective movement. Talk about the mission of Creative Collective NYC and how it got started.
I went to 4 different networking groups in New York, and no shade, but I just was like, the Instagram was popping, but IRL in real life, it just felt very much like, here's my business card. What can I do for you?
Yeah.
And I just hate
very
being
transactional.
I was like, oh, you work at NBC? Oh, well, I'm an actor, and can you get me on TV? And I was like, oh, I actually don't even work in that department, so no.
And we just met.
This is so I just stopped doing that, and I ended up inviting about 10 of my friends to my apartment. Yeah. I'm Southern, so I cooked for them.
Nice. What'd you cook?
It was taco night. Okay, so not too much credit, but I cooked.
Was it at least shrimp tacos or fish tacos?
It was chicken and steak. You got, or if you're a vegetarian, some peppers. But, everyone had to come with something that they were working on. And we kind of, Indian style, went around in a circle and you got feedback on what you were working on. Nice. So some people were like, I'm thinking of doing this blog. Is this, name corny? And we would let them know. And so we took a picture at the end of the night, and people underneath it on Instagram were giving us the side eyes, why wasn't I invited? Ooh. I was like, it was just taco night. Yeah. So we decided we'd do it again, but the next time everyone would bring someone they could vouch for. Okay. So it was 10 people originally. Nice. Then it was 20 people.
That's a nice marketing model too, you're +1.
You're +1.
Yeah.
Because it was still my house. I didn't want my iPhone chargers being stolen, accountability.
I need my blocks.
I was like, I still live here. So there was 20 people in my apartment, 40 people in my apartment.
Wow.
It's still a New York apartment. So I was like, we have to move out. So 24 events later, our community has grown to over 7,000 creatives of color. And it's just amazing to see the appetite that's there. Yeah. Sometimes, I walk into an event, and the fact that I don't know most of the people,
that's amazing.
It's the most beautiful thing.
Oh my gosh, I know that's so rewarding.
It's so beautiful.
Fulfilling. And you guys just had an event with Charlemagne the God.
We did.
How was that?
It was great. He was so transparent, which I think we expected. Yeah. We see that side of him, but just him being transparent in his journey before the Breakfast Club and talking about the days when he was working for free and sleeping on couches. And I think that's the biggest thing to me, is seeing humanity in people. Like, you see Oprah and you only see her at the top of the mountain. And I love like breaking that down to when she was where we were, which is the hustle, you know.
And we're up next. Like,
Speak
we are the next,
Yes.
you know, Oprahs and Charlemagne's and all of that. Like, I believe
that.
it, I see it.
I love that.
So a common trend for a lot of us is like having that full-time corporate job and then having like a passion on the side or like a project that we're a part of. And you're doing it extremely well. So what advice would you have for someone who's trying to kind of balance out those two responsibilities and be successful with that?
I think two things. I think you can't compromise your 9 to 5. I think sometimes it's really easy to fall in love with a startup. But don't forget, you know, who feeds you.
Right. Who puts food on the table?
Who puts food on the table. So you don't want to be kind of slacking off in the job that got you here. If that's what's happening, you should leave your job. And then I think the second thing is you have to treat your hustle like it is the 9 to 5. So now you have 2 full-time jobs. I think sometimes, again, people are like, I have this thing that I want to do, but they spend no time on it. They just want it to manifest.
Well, you're doing an amazing job with that.
Thanks, Johnny.
And what I see is like you're inspiring people, and I sit down with so many amazing, inspiring people on this conversation. And what really is actually fascinating to me is like who inspires the influencers.
Oh yeah.
So if you had like 3 people that were on your Mount Rushmore of inspiration, who would it be?
Gosh, I know it's so taboo to do this, but I love Oprah. Like, I watch Super Soul Sundays to refresh myself. I just think like it's so important to have, you know, goals for yourself, but I think your goals cannot just be career driven. It has to be your spirituality. You know, you have to be a full person. And so I just love that about her, that Super Soul Sundays, like she always was feeding her spirit in addition to feeding her career.
Absolutely.
I love Oprah. It would definitely be Oprah. Barack Obama, like what? Because again, humanity is so important to me, and I think throughout his entire tenure, just was such a human.
Such a human.
I miss him so much. I still call him the president.
He's like unreal. Like the way that he has just avoided all the drama and always rose above everything is just like, you gotta have respect for a guy like that.
So much respect. And then the third person, again, I wish I was being more creative here, but it's really how I feel, Beyonce, because...
Are you Beehive?
Nah.
Yeah, you gotta be, if you're Beehive.
I feel like if I say no, the Beehive will come after me, so yes. I just, the work ethic. I think, you know, we've seen these documentaries where she is on the ground deciding the music notes for when she walks with her left foot, and I just, that work ethic, you know. Working hard. Nothing beats working hard.
Nothing beats it.
Nothing.
Hard work beats talent. When talent doesn't work hard.
Yes. I need a t-shirt with that.
Right. You probably will make one.
I probably will, but okay.
I also need one of those t-shirts, creative as well.
Yes.
I need that.
Okay, we'll work on that.
Yeah, and I'll maybe get you a little ShineHard hat or something.
Yeah, can we do an exchange?
Let's do it.
Okay.
So what's been the biggest challenge?
Everything is a challenge because I have never done this before. So it's a lot of growing pains. It's learning how to delegate. In the beginning, remember, this was at my house, so I did everything. Like, I curated the list, I cooked the food, all people had to do was like maybe bring wine if they wanted to. But as you start to scale and you start to grow, our last event had 220 people.
Wow.
And I realized I needed a team. I couldn't do check-in and meet Charlemagne and do the photos. And so, lucky for me, some of my best friends are on this steering committee.
Nice.
We meet bi-weekly, we come up with the ideas together. Everything is collaboration.
So wait, how many people on your team?
There's 10 people.
Okay.
There's 10 people with full-time jobs.
Everyone's just kind of like...
Everyone it's like a potluck. Everyone brings what they can. So we've got people who by day work at MTV, design our graphics, you know, by day plan events, you know, help us plan events.
Oh my gosh, that's so important.
You gotta, I mean, I think I think that's the thing, a lot of times we think that the experts have to be somewhere else. And the experts are like your best friends.
They're all around us.
They're eating guac, like right next to you.
So how did you recruit them? Was it like what was the pitch? What was the like, all right, we're gonna have a powwow and I wanna talk to you guys about something?
Individually, I just approached my friends and I said, look, I think I'm gonna start making this collective a thing. Do you wanna be a part of the beginning of it? And they all said yes.
So you got buy-in at the very
beginning. I had
right.
people that were believers,
Right.
and we made the world believers. But in the beginning, I mean, in the beginning, I think we all thought this would stay in my house.
Yeah.
And, you know, now we're doing conferences sponsored by Samsung, and it's just like a machine that's feeding itself. It's really great.
What inspires you to succeed?
Wow. Ooh, that's like an Oprah deep question.
It is. Soul Series. Hey.
Soul Series. What inspires me to succeed? I have this fire in myself of not living this life of quiet desperation. You know, Henry David Thoreau says most men lead lives of quiet desperation. They want to do things so badly. And at the end of their life, they're like 50 years old, and they're like, I could have. Why didn't I? And that's my biggest fear. Being 60 and being like, I could have.
Yep.
Why didn't I?
Yep.
And I just think that we're in this time now, we're saying, you know, if you want a website, you buy a domain on Squarespace, you have a website.
Right.
It's just you can do anything you want
If
to
you
do.
build it, they will come.
They will come. They sure will. They sure will. So that is this fire inside of me. It's always been in me to just like run full speed, and I'll rest later. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same. So do you feel like everyone has a dream?
Maybe. I don't know. I'm realizing people are different, you know, because the thing is, like, I realize that I'm so wired to be a doer.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people dream of things, but I think what separates them is the execution, being a doer. Because I will meet so many people who, Johnny, they'll say, I want to do this.
Right.
And then I go, oh, and so that my problem is I'm like, yeah, okay, so what,
Yeah,
and they're like,
yeah.
oh, no, nope, I actually, like in 5 years, not.
Yeah.
So I think everyone has a dream because that's where we can escape.
Right.
I think the difference is the do. Yeah.
That's real. So there's a lot going on socially
Yeah.
with social injustices and politically with old boy in office right now. There's a lot of things that are needed in our community. What do you think is needed right now for young Black millennials?
I think, you know, safe spaces. I think, you know, my mother and I were just talking about this, but she was like, this is so crazy. I feel like we're reliving, you know, some of the worst days in America when it comes to race relation. I said, but Mom, the difference is that today I can turn on CNN and see Angela Rye talking about how crazy number 45 is.
Yeah.
In the 1960s, the narrative you were fed was that this is normal
Yeah.
and that this is how it should always be. And so the difference is that there are now these platforms and these safe spaces that you can look to people and see that you're not alone in this crazy world.
Yeah.
And so going back to the Creative Collective, you know, right after the election, we partnered with Revolt and had this safe space where you could come and you didn't have to be happy and you didn't have to pretend that like nothing had happened. And you could really, in your own way, whether it was to grieve or to drink or to laugh, like whatever your outlet was, it was a safe space for you. And so I think we need safe spaces where you can talk about what you need, where you can build with other people, more than ever.
What frustrates you the most about today's culture?
I'm kind of old-fashioned. I mean, I think, you know, there's a lack of empathy sometimes, just all around. There's a blank. It's getting better, but I think a lot of times people can't empathize. And if they would take a second and stop trying to be so right, they could realize that we really aren't as different as it seems.
It's like everyone's arguing different points.
Yeah, and it's kind of like, I love when narratives come out that say this is this, but this isn't that. Like, Black Lives Matter does not mean that white lives don't.
Right.
I don't understand why it has to be like this or that. And I wish if people could see that it's an and, you know, and that comes from being empathetic.
Yeah.
And I think that starts with the individual is, you know, instead of screaming out at Facebook, it's your friend who wants to touch your hair explaining why that's actually not okay. One step at a time.
Does that happen? That still happens?
When I first got braids, I got braids last summer and it happened. And it just depended. It depended on what day you caught me. On a Monday, it might be cute.
Don't touch my head.
On a Friday, I was like, you know, it just depends.
That's real.
Just depends.
So I'm a nerd. I
too.
love to read. I had a goal this year to read 25 books. and I actually accomplished that, so I'm proud of myself.
Wow, that's awesome.
But yeah, so I feel like readers are leaders. So I'm pretty sure you've read some great books in your time. What's
Yeah.
one book that has really like changed your life?
I think, one book that's really changed my life is The Shack by William Paul, oh gosh, what's his? Well, I always do this.
Google alert, like.
I know, I want to Google it. I literally took a picture. As soon as you say, it's like William Paul, I'm just not going to say.
It's called The Shack.
The Shack.
Okay, we got that much.
Got it. Okay, it's a movie now. One of the books that I'm loving is The Shack.
Okay.
And a really important takeaway from the book is that a lot of times when we think of our future, it's through the lens of fear. We're worried about something. And I'm a spiritual person. I believe in God, and it really just shifted my perspective of this idea of worrying and where that energy goes. Like if you've prepared, it's gonna happen. The event is gonna happen. And I think for the first time, I applied this to the Charlemagne event. It was our biggest event other than CultureCon, which is our conference that we do.
CultureCon was so lit. I was mad I wasn't there. I'm like, I need to be at CultureCon next year.
Come next year.
I want to be there.
It was our biggest event. We had, over 200 people, Charlemagne. There were just so many different layers.
I love the branding from CultureCon, how everyone has their profile pic.
Yeah.
From I'm like, that is so unique.
Yeah.
That's a nice touch.
Thank you. I mean, it's the content. Gotta have the content.
Yep.
But I like to worry. It feels like energy. It feels like I'm doing something, and I just realized it was wasted energy. And so in The Shack, it talked about this wasted energy and where does it go.
Yeah.
And so instead, it's kind of pivoting and putting that energy towards making your list, checking it twice, going to sleep. Like me staying up till 3 a.m. worried if check-in will go smoothly does not make check-in go smoothly.
Right.
And so if you haven't read it, you really should read it. It's really good. There's a movie now, but don't cheat. You should read the book.
I'll check it out. Can I do audiobook?
Do you like doing audiobook?
Audiobook is why I've made my goal this year.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting. I've never.
Audible
Okay.
app. Download it.
Okay.
It's great.
That's my homework. I'll do that.
So in conclusion, we have so many high school students, college students, young professional peers that want to get into entertainment, that want to start movements, that want to really walk in their purpose, right? And that's why we do what we do. And I have you here because you're a leader in that space, and we need to hear from you. So what advice do you have for the community, the ShineHard community, about how to succeed, and what's the mindset of success for you?
I think, first and foremost, you have to humble yourself. When you're reaching out to someone, you need something from them. And so I am always so surprised when, anyone who emails me, I will always hop on the phone.
Yeah.
Always. Sometimes it's very hard, but I always will do it.
You're better than me.
I know.
I'll be like,
It gets hard. It gets really hard.
What you want to talk about again?
I'm like, but I remember being that girl who would send an email and check it twice, and when they would reply to me, it was everything. And so you have to be who you needed when you were younger.
Yo, that's my quote.
You gotta do that.
Yeah.
But you cannot email someone and they have this job that you want to learn more about. Like, I've gone back and forth with kids in college who are like, oh, sorry, that time doesn't work for me. Oh, sorry, that day doesn't work for me. Oh, sorry, I'm not free that whole. And I just would never imagine emailing you as a college student being like, oh, sorry, Johnny, I can only do 12 p.m. Eastern time and I can only do 30 minutes. It's like, you can't.
Yeah.
So I think you have to humble yourself first and foremost
Absolutely.
and be, so there were times I would sneak out of class to talk to someone who was an executive at MTV. Are you kidding? So I think that never goes away.
Never.
I still reach out to people who I would love to learn from, and I make it work. So make it work.
Yep.
Be okay with, just being quiet and learning.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how far that will go.
Yep.
And then in terms of what success looks like, I think, Maya Angelou said it, but I think success is liking who you are, liking what you do, and liking how you do it. Being able to go to bed at night and being like, who I represent, like who I show the world, that's who I truly am. And I don't have to wear these different faces because I'm walking in my truth.
Yep.
And
That's deep.
authenticity, people really vibe with it.
You gotta have it. You gotta have that real.
Yeah, people,
Yeah.
there's nothing that beats it.
It transcends all. The
Ooh,
truth.
I love that word, transcends.
Yeah.
It does. It really does
Yeah.
transcend all, because especially today when everyone wants to, think that your life is only Instagram.
Right.
When you can be like, actually, I was, at the office until 12 o'clock last night. Like that humanity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't even look at Instagram. I'm like Diddy. I don't care what nobody else is doing. I gotta focus on what I'm doing to manifest this big dream I got in my head and make a positive impact on the world.
It's so true.
But no, this was an awesome conversation. I really appreciate you making the time to be here. I really love what you're doing.
Thank
We
you.
definitely have an aligned mission to make change in the world. So kudos to you. Let everyone know how they can find you online, what they can look forward to in the next couple months or weeks or whatever you have coming up next.
For sure. So I'm on Instagram, Imani. It's a double I in the middle. I'm not really on Twitter. I mean, I am, but it's Imani Naomi. I don't really tweet.
Okay.
And then the Creative Collective, it's at the CCNYC or www.theccnyc.com. And we do an event every single month. So follow us on Instagram for updates.
Nice. Awesome. You guys can find me, Johnny Bailey, at @1JohnnyBailey. Of course, follow the ShineHard movement at ShineHardFam. Visit ShineHardFamily.org. Shout out to the Driven Society for hosting us here in NYC. Follow them on Instagram at Driven Society. And a closing gem, I would say set big goals. And not necessarily for the goals itself, but the dream. What's more important than the dream is who you become in the process. So shine for the culture. Imani, thanks.
Thanks, Johnny.
Our goal is to help young Black boys and girls discover their passion and change the world, but we cannot do this without the help of the ShineHard community. Will you be the milestone donor that helps a 17-year-old Black girl learn the path of a plastic surgeon? Will you be the keystone donor that helps a 22-year-old graduate break through into the tech industry? We as a community can accomplish so much together, but the time to act is now. Here's what you can do. Scroll down, click donate, and invest in the future of our community. I'm Johnny Bailey, and together we shine.